man, is it going?
Just started.
Coordinating that.
Now we're live.
Oh man, thank you so much. Okay, guys. So it says here we should invite someone to say a prayer, and then I can run through a brief synopsis, and then we can just jump right into the questions. But is somebody interested in offering a prayer?
Yeah, I
I'll do
could do
it.
it.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I want to do it.
Go ahead, Clint. I will let you do it.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the many blessings that we've been given. Thank you for the opportunity that we have to meet as a group and be an effective team and be there for each other. And Lord, please bless us that we have the Spirit with us to help lead and guide us and catch the things that we need to notice. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, this was a good case. Reading through, you kind of get a sense of who Jamie Turner is and what he's done throughout his career. It says he's 32 years old. He had got his MBA 6 years earlier, and he's kind of had a sporadic history of going to different jobs. And it seems like each job he went to, he kind of found fault or kind of had little issues. It kind of grew into bigger issues, and he left, and he went to a new company, and vice versa. I think he did that for 3 companies, maybe. Or now he's at MLI. But he
Yeah, he's
started
at
off.
his
Oh
third.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think he's at his third, right?
I think maybe he is at his third. Yes.
He's at his third.
Okay. So he's at his third, and he started like positively, like he had good relationships, and then as he's worked his way through, he's kind of confronted little dilemmas and issues, and now the CEO is about to come out and find out what's going on, and the case kind of ends with the cliffhanger. He's about to confront his boss, Cardulo, just to see if he can touch base with him and reconnect. But was there anything I missed in that synopsis, guys?
No, I think you've covered it pretty good.
Okay. Right on, right on. Well, let's jump into some of these questions. So what do you guys think some of the root problems in this case are?
I think one of the big ones is that there is a lack of communication. I know that Cardolo, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry. Cardolo, he says during the interview how important it is to have open communication and that they meet and talk about things. And it talks about how Turner and Cardolo they communicated very well at the very beginning. And then the more responsibility that Turner took on, the less communication occurred. And it just seemed to me that there seems to be backbiting, just back and forth. And I couldn't tell specifically, I couldn't decide whether or not, Turner was the one that was having the problems, or if it was actually Cardolo or even Julie Chan, the one that lashes back. I see just an organization structure where it reminds me of the book that we're reading, and how everyone's so focused on their section that they're not paying attention to what's going outside. And with the lack of communication, there's just disconnects through the company that's causing contention. Did you guys see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw that. I think there's also kind of like a lack of evaluation in the company. Another thing that I thought of was a possible problem is there might not be enough management or overseeing from Lipsky, Pat Cardullo's boss.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe even there's an issue of like Pat feels like he's been working there for a while and he feels like he's trying really hard, but he's not getting any positive feedback. So maybe that's why he's bitter. And so I think that
Well,
could also be a problem.
I also felt like Cardullo. Now, I believe this is the perception of Jamie Turner, but he has a "it's my way or no way" look. I think you see that when he approaches, I think it's Dennis, and he wants him to change how the inventory is set up. And he turned to Turner and he wants Turner to back him up. And Turner's like, not wanting to be opposed to Cardullo. He says, I see pros and cons on both sides. And at that point, Cardullo starts turning on Turner, or he feels that he's turning on him. He starts having more contention with him. Same thing when he approached Kelly. Cardullo said he wanted him to go to one of the other plants once a week, even if it meant he had to sit on his butt all day and do nothing, and that he was the boss. That he's listen to me. I'm the boss. I don't care. This is how it's going to be, whether it was effective or not. He kind of has this do it my way or no way, and there's a comment about either you're competent or you're incompetent to him. And if you do it his way, then you're competent, and if you do it any other way, then you're incompetent, and therefore the communication is severed. And so I see that's a huge issue if a team can't actually talk amongst each other about pros and cons and what truly is effective, even or most especially, I guess, as a manager of a company, or someone in Cardullo's position. He doesn't have the answers to everything. He may be there for a long time. He may have a good understanding of the company, but he does not have necessarily the best answer for everything. And that's why the team is necessary. And I felt like as I read the case study, that he was just very absolute on this is what I want and this is what's going to be done. And if it wasn't, then he took over.
That's true. That was kind of the hard part of the case, I think, is because I think he was reasonable, or he seemed reasonable in the beginning, but then it's like he kind of would turn, I don't know, or he would just sort of take over, and he was kind of hard to work with. I think that was kind of like one of the root problems was how Jamie Turner could work with Pat in a way that could be effective and conducive for the whole team to improve. But
yeah, I think that was definitely the big problem there. He seemed to be very forceful, but I feel like I'd love to hear like the other situation, like the relationship between Cardillo and Lipsky. Maybe he's getting performed but not getting any feedback, and so I can see anybody really getting to that point where they just get frustrated enough, like Turner, and so they just want to see things happen.
Well, and one of the things I noticed is in the initial interview, one of the primary focuses that Cardillo had was he wanted somebody that could, let me see where it was. It was I can't think right now.
wasn't like
Basically forecast the sales. No, he was talking about the forecasting and being able to accurately project sales and accurately project the numbers for the beginning of, for each time. Where is that at? I have it. Anyhow, he stresses the importance of having those numbers correct. So when Turner first is working and he has projected certain numbers, he has his first meeting, everyone's on board and they're really excited and they're supportive of him. He's given them a projection of what's going to occur. And then he says, here's the hard part. He was nervous. Here's the hard part. Now I have to make it happen. And then that first month, it didn't happen. And Cardillo was not pleased about it. And he was saying, look, we need to work on this. And Turner is saying, look, we still did better than April before I came. But that didn't impress Cardillo because in my mind, I kept thinking he was saying, he had stressed that as such an important thing during the interview, that it's a goal that was missed. And it was missed 3 months in a row. And then Cardolo stepped in and said, I'm taking over. And even though his plan may not have worked and wasn't effective, I think, kind of like what Clint said there, is that he got to that point where he was frustrated enough that he just took over. And so I kind of see both sides of that too.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of tricky too because I think, like you said in the beginning, it's like they had a good relationship, and then throughout they kind of lost it. And I think they lost even some of that trust or ability to kind of I don't know, connect with each other. So then when things started going wrong, the relationship wasn't there anymore. And it would be easy for him just to get frustrated at Turner. Like, what the heck? Had they just maintained a good, trusting relationship, and then, like, when Turner messed up, he could go to him and say, okay, I messed up. This is what I think happened. This is what we want to improve. And he'd be like, okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they move on, opposed to just getting mad.
You seem to have a big problem in micromanaging.
Yeah.
Like for when that one instance where Turner's team had messed up, and he told them in his next meeting that he needs to address it. But then Cardillo showed up at the second team meeting, and Turner addressed it again, and he just walked out and slammed the door.
Yeah.
Which when I read that, I actually wrote in my notes, that's so immature.
Yeah.
I just thought,
There's a huge
Turner
problem micromanaging.
But Turner had an opportunity there that he could have gone to Cardolo and said, hey, I've addressed it twice. It's very visible that you're frustrated or upset. Have I missed something? Maybe Cardolo wanted him to not just talk vaguely about privacy and everything, but that he wanted a different type of action. And so I think part of the expectations are just very unclear between all of them.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think we addressed a lot of the root problems
I agree.
in the case. But the next question was, how did Turner get himself into this predicament? What is going on with Cardulo? I think we addressed a lot of that, even what we were talking about before. But is there anything else we'd like to add to that?
I think there's also an aspect of Turner that he's kind of prideful in himself, or like has this false sense of like hope that he'll find a job that's perfect and has no problems with him moving around. And I think he seems to be right sometimes, but he feels like he's probably the smartest one out of the bunch, because I can't remember exactly what it said, but didn't he say that he was basically like leading the company or whatever?
Yeah, he felt like, well, even during the interview, he said he felt like he knew more of the company than Cardillo did. And that was just at the interview.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, and we also learned that Turner's character, he says when he leaves the second company that maybe he had been too harsh in his assessments. Maybe he could have caused problems within the company because of personal animosities. And if he was thinking that at the end of his last company, maybe he's just repeating some old habits and he's not learned from them, because he certainly has animosities in this new company.
Yeah, because didn't he say like he wanted a new challenge or whatever towards the beginning?
He did.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he could have done a lot to change the outcome of his situation. Like whether it was Cardolo's fault or if he was hard to work with, I still think Turner totally could have adapted himself to fit Cardolo, and then even work with him and get it to the point where he wanted it, opposed to, I think we had a case kind of like this before, didn't we? it was like the subordinate kind of just started doing their own thing. They kind of went off on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like the total lack of communication, lack of trust. And it's like 9 times out of 10, the subordinate gets burned and the manager stays in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. I think he could have catered to Cardolo a lot more or tried to like satisfy his expectations.
So I have a question though. In the case study instructions, it talks about, wait a second. Let me move my notes here. It's the managing up and being able to communicate and manage up.
Mm-hmm.
What did they call it? Anyhow, they say the professor talks about having a skill set to manage up, that employees manage to sway the boss off, or the boss to make a decision that the employee thinks is best, and that's an important skill that we need to have. And the fact that he specifically identified that in this case study makes me wonder, does he think Turner should have tried to convince his boss to manage up, or do you think that that's the problem, is that he managed up or made these, convinced him at the beginning and then wasn't able to meet expectations? I just wondered what your take was on that specific topic that they brought up, that we are supposed to address on the skill set.
Yeah. From my understanding, or at least right now, is kind of like, how is Turner gonna assess the situation? Like, it doesn't have to be the manager that fixes problems, and so Turner obviously feels like there's a situation that needs to be solved, and so I think it's kind of like, how would he handle that situation, or like, what should he do?
Okay.
So like, should he talk to the boss and like, hey, there seems to be poor connection, we're not seeming to understand each other? Or
Do you think, in a situation like this, that it is repairable at this point? I mean, it has been 6, 7 months. I don't remember exactly how long. And he has approached Cardolo. I think in the case study, it gives 3 different examples. And each time, it appears everything is okay. Turner interprets that everything is okay. Or Cardolo has said, don't worry about it. It's fine. But then the problems persist. So to me, it's got to be more than him just talking to Cardolo. There's got to be an action. There's got to be a change that occurs between both of them in order for there to be an actual progressive change.
yeah,
So,
I think there, with the lack of communication, I think communication can easily start from the bottom and go up to the manager. So I think that might be one bottom up approach that Turner can take, is try to make everyone communicate better, rather than hopefully have Cardolo communicate better as well, as soon as everyone else communicates.
okay.
I could see something like that. Even like if Turner were to like be totally set and he knew what something he could do that would make a huge impact, is just do it and then give Cardolo the credit for it or something. Like he just keeps making Cardolo look good. I don't know. Yeah, managing up is kind of a tricky situation. Like if your boss is totally just kind of out to lunch on stuff, but what you should do. I don't know. That is kind of tricky. How would you sway like a superior person in the company to do something? But who knows? Who knows?
You have to understand them first.
That's true.
Where he's coming from. So I think that's the only way he's gonna be able to do it.
I like that. I like that.
At least one way.
What do you think Pat Cardolo and Jamie Turner each initially brought to this or bring to the situation at MLI, and what would seem to ensure success and failure?
Their prides.
Yeah,
They're both pretty prideful in what they do, and so that would destroy the success of the company.
that's true. That's true. I think what could bring success too is they do have a lot of experience, and I think they like together could potentially make the company a great place, and they could meet their goals. It's like I think they have the skill set. The skill set's there, I think, for them to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Or if Pat takes his new job,
Yeah.
that might.
If Cardolo leaves.
Yeah, because isn't he supposed to planning on leaving in a couple months or a year? That could help.
At the rate it's going, though, do you think Turner would last a couple years?
Not with his attitude of finding the perfect job.
No. Unfortunately, he'll find himself bouncing from one job to another the rest of his life if that's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know, I wonder if one of the things that, well, that would really help the company is at no point do I hear or did I read that they have manager meetings of any kind. And to me, it seems like that would be really important to understand, you know, as a team, what the hand is doing versus what the foot is doing, so that you're actually working to accomplish the same thing, the same goals. So it didn't look like they had a unified goal as a company to work towards, or a way for them to meet and make sure that everyone is working towards a common goal. I mean, everyone can have different responsibilities, but in all reality, like when Turner was trying to reduce the inventory and he made a huge sale, which upset Cardolo. That involved Julie Chan and Cardolo and him and Kelly, the four. Which, if if Turner and Cardolo and Julie, because they're all managers, had a manager meeting of some sort and said, "Look, we have an excess of inventory, and we need to be able to get rid of it. We have a client here we can sell it to," and actually talk it through, then there would have never been a blow up of any sort, because regardless of what the decision is made at the table, they all would have had a clear, defined action plan of what was going to happen. And so I think that that's one of the things that destroys their company, is that they don't have a common goal, and they don't have meetings. They don't communicate each other, specifically the managers. So
I
Yeah.
think that's huge. I think that's huge. I remember thinking that when I was reading the case, it was like they had no like set numerical goals or anything that they could possibly achieve, and there's no way they were actually accounting for it. So then it kind of just seemed like a rudderless ship, and they're just kind of doing whatever.
yeah. And when something goes wrong, everyone points fingers at someone else because they're not held accountable, you know?
It's true. That is the truth. No, that's a good point. That's definitely a good point. Um, I guess looking at what are the key choice points where either of them could have done things differently. The key choice points. So I guess like looking at it as a timeline of events, at what point key choice points where either one of them could have done things differently. Okay. What do you guys think about that? I think the goals thing would have been huge. I mean, if they just would have met at the very beginning and established goals and had an accountability system set up, that would have been awesome. Like you said, Verity.
Yeah.
Well, I think in this storyline, they talk about the shift in behavior. There's I don't know, probably 3 or 4 main points where it shows a complete shift, I think, between Pat and Turner, or James, yeah, Pat and Turner. And one of them is when Turner doesn't want to fire Kelly and Cardolo wants him to. And I think I don't think any manager wants to be told, no, you're wrong. I don't think they want it. I don't think, I mean, Cardolo obviously had his reasons why he felt Kelly needed to go. And I don't think that the case study addresses specifically, the details on that, but I think that by Turner disregarding that, it was disrespectful to Cardillo, and I think that's where the tension started really beginning. Because even though it doesn't specifically say, hey, this is a problem, they complain about Kelly throughout the whole case study, the rest of the case study. And so I think that is one. I think that could have been a key point where Turner could have gone to Cardillo and said, hey, help me understand, this is why I would like to keep Kelly on. Help me understand why you think we should let him go. So that they were able to maintain a mutual respect. And then another one was the meeting with Dennis. And Cardillo expected Turner to back him up on it. Again, I think that Cardillo, this is where his pride gets in. But you put two prideful men in a room, and there's always going to be a level of conflict. And I think that you see that when he's in with Dennis. And then the big one being when he blew up with the big cell. And that one actually kind of surprised me because it does say that Turner made this huge cell. And earlier it discussed that all large cells were going to be approved and go through Cardillo. So to me, it felt like Turner went behind his back, saw an opportunity to make a sale to get rid of the inventory. And again, it undermined Cardillo, especially on something they had agreed to do. And so I think those are, 3 key situations where Turner had an opportunity to, he could have done things a little differently, and it would have helped the relationship. I'm not going to say stroke his ego or anything like that. I've seen that a lot in a company where managers stroke the CEO's ego just to get what they want. But there's a difference between stroking someone's ego and respecting somebody. And I felt like Turner was disrespectful multiple times by disregarding Cardillo's instructions.
Amen.
Seriously though, I don't think Turner understood exactly what he was doing when he did it. Like he didn't. I don't know. Like he didn't know that was gonna burn Cardolo so bad just to make the sale. Or maybe he did. Maybe if he thought about it beforehand, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I remember he said he wanted approval for this." But yeah, amen. I think you did a great job summarizing those points.
I think part of it's also just Turner's behavior, what he's developed over his lifetime. It's his own attitude, his own behavior. You kind of said he maybe didn't recognize it. Well, on his last job, he didn't recognize that he could have done something different until he was leaving the job. And then he's reflecting on it going, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been so aggressive about this. Maybe I should have. And And that's kind of something Turner needs to be able to do, is sit back and reflect on things instead of just react. He needs to sit and go, okay, what can I what can I learn from what my past experiences so that I can make this work? And it doesn't seem like he does that. It seems like he just jumps in gun ho and he just makes the decisions based upon what he thinks is best, and then unfortunately gets to suffer the consequences because his behavior is an issue. But he doesn't, I don't think he truly sees that it's an issue. I don't think he recognizes that he really is a problem or part of this problem. Um, that makes it difficult to solve a situation if you don't recognize that you're a part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be, can't imagine going into a company and the president asked me to fire someone like 4 months in or whatever. I'm like, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. Can't imagine doing that. So,
Yeah.
even
Well,
if
and
he is a good aspect, like it's not something you want to do right off the bat.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. No, it's definitely is hard to read, and I don't know. It's good stuff to apply. Um, at the very end of the case study, Turner is going to go and approach Cardolo. How do you think he should do this, or what do you think he should do to try to resolve the issues?
I think first he should kind of humble himself and kind of say, like, point out like the things he has done wrong, but also at the same time give positive feedback to what Cardolo's done. It doesn't seem like he's, as president, like anyone's giving him any good positive feedback or thanks or appreciation. And then from there, hopefully, Cardillo will bring up some of his own concerns and they can talk it out from there. But it's the only thing I can think of at the moment.
It's kind of
I
what
think
I
that's
thought. Oh,
I
go
think that's
ahead.
great. No, I was gonna say I think that's great. I would add one more thing. I think he needs an action plan as far as, he can go in and humble and acknowledge what he's done and give positive feedback, but then he needs to have an action plan of what he himself can do differently to make changes. If he recognizes the problems, he needs to address what he's going to do to fix those problems, not just say I have a problem.
I
That would be the
like
only thing
that.
I'd add.
I like that. I totally agree. I totally agree. Just coming in completely confronting the things that he realized he did wrong, even looking to Cardolo for, like, I guess, advice on how he could improve.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, implementing a solid action plan and setting up times that he can come back and account to it. But I bet he could stay on. Like, I don't think they'd fire him if he did that and he made progress to whatever they agreed upon. Like, it could save his job.
I agree. I mean, I think when he went and had the face to face with Cardillo about um, feeling like he needed to be at one place or the other and why, and he outlined his reasons to him, though it probably was really hard for Cardillo to hear that. Cardillo's response was he respected the fact that he talked to him about it and that he appreciated it. So I think that shows that Cardillo's willing to listen, but he doesn't want nonsense. He hired a manager that he thought that he can just put into a position and that would work, and that's necessary. I mean, if you go to a job and you're hired in as a customer service, you expect a training level to occur. You go into a position as a manager, they expect that you know a level of information already, that you don't have to be retrained. And I think that Cardillo, respected Turner when he came in, and he said, "Look, this is what I see. Um, from my perspective as a manager, this is what I see, and this is how it's affecting us." He respected that. So I think that if Turner did the same thing again and say, "Look, this is what I've done wrong. This is what I see I've messed up on. I see that whatever, humble himself, like you said, and point out where he needs to work on. But then I think he needs to also acknowledge that he is capable. Part of his action plan is to be able to give himself enough credit as well to be capable to do the things that Cardello gave him, and outline what's kind of, what some of the successes are and where he's struggling to make those successes, and how Cardello can help him. And if he acknowledges that he's capable and that he needs Cardello as a guide in part of it, I think that it pulls them together. It allows that, it doesn't separate them. It doesn't say, you know, I can do this and I don't need any help, but let's work together. I am capable and I have the skill sets. I'm going to be able to make this work, but I need you on my team. You know, I don't know if I went off on tangents there a little bit, but in my mind it worked.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
But yeah, I thought Cardello was kind of a hard man, but then as I reflected on, who the different managers that I've worked with and stuff, they all kind of come across that way. And when you get to know them, they're really not that way. They just are more, business oriented and focused on a specific plan and goal. And so maybe he needs to get to know him too, just a little better on a more personal level.
Yeah, there usually seems to always be an underlying problem, so he needs to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. That's the truth, guys. I think we did a great job with this case study. Is there any other comments or anything you guys feel like we should talk about or share?
I think we covered it pretty good.
I think so too. It's going to make the write-up really easy to write.
Well, good.
It should. I love it though, because then it does. It kind of puts the whole case into perspective, and you get everybody else's viewpoint on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But well, I guess that is it, guys. Thank you so much for your participation.
Yeah, we had a good discussion with only 3 people. So
I know I missed Austin, but I think we have one more. Or do we have one more group thing where we talk about our projects? I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, well, it looks like based on the instructions we're supposed to, but I'll send an email out, and I'll just copy you guys in the email so that if you respond, you get a response. That's probably
Okay.
the
awesome.
easiest way.
Sounds good. Well,
And
thank
when
you
we're
so
done
much.
here, I'll post it.
Thank
you for leading us, Thor.
Oh, thanks for setting it all up.
No problem. All right, have a good day, you guys.
Hey, we'll
Bye.
talk to you later. Bye.